Hey guys, today we're sewing a sick pair of straight cut baggy jeans and I'm gonna show you how to stonewash them. These pants were by far the most requested ones via Instagram, so with this video you can easily learn how to do them yourself. You can find the pattern on my Patreon page, the link is in the video description down below. And for the fastest 10 of you, there's a 20% discount with the code STRAIGHTCUT. In addition, mysterious codes, which you can use on Black Friday, are displayed during this video from time to time. Each code hides a different type of discount. So find the codes and on the 29th of November, these will be activated on my Patreon page. And if you don't want to miss the next sewing tutorials, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and if you like the jeans, I'm very happy about every thumbs up. To sew the pair of jeans, I use my normal sewing machine, the Singer HD 6335M, and my overlock from Yuki, the MO50EN. If you only have a normal sewing machine, no problem at all. I'm gonna explain everything within this framework, and all the parts that I'm sewing with the overlock are just a nice extra.
But what do we actually need to sew the baggy jeans? Approximately 2.5 to 3 meters of denim fabric, a 14 centimeter long zipper, a pumice stone, sewing needles that are suitable for jeans, i.e. universal or jeans needles, a button to hammer onto a metal pin or one to sew on, a normal sewing foot, an edge sewing foot, a zipper sewing foot, and a buttonhole sewing foot, an iron, a pair of scissors, a seam ripper, a tape measure, chalk or a colored pencil, and thread that matches the color of the fabric. Once we have all our utensils together, we need to prepare our pattern. To do this, we lay all the A4 pages in front of us in the correct order and cut everything perfectly along the edges. Then we need to glue all the small individual pieces together to make our final pattern pieces using cello tape. And for your information, you can simply cut out exactly the parts of the pattern that I use in this video. Now we can start with the cutting. For the fabric, I chose a blue 100% cotton denim. By the way, if you're wondering where to get really good denim fabric, just wait a while, I will have something soon. We now spread the fabric out completely. Pay attention to the weave direction of the fabric. For pants, you should make sure that the weave direction is vertical for all pieces. First, we take a few pattern pieces from which we will only cut out one piece at a time. These are the front left and right trouser legs, the small coin pocket, the zipper cover, and the fly shield. I will draw the outline for all these parts. If you want to be on the safe side and make sure that nothing slips, you can weigh the whole thing down with something. We also draw a 77 centimeter long and 2.5 centimeter wide strip in a suitable place. This will be important later for the belt loops. Next, we take our piece for the back pocket of our pants. Now pay attention. We are now going to start drawing out pieces, of which we need 2, but only use one pattern piece. So make sure you always cut out 2 mirrored pieces. We always need one piece for the right side of the pants and one for the left. We do this because it allows us to use the fabric more efficiently. Now do the same for the back of the trousers and for the 2 pocket pieces for the front of the trousers. We can then cut out our individual pieces from all the silhouettes we have drawn on. Now we fold the fabric on top of each other and place our pattern piece for the waistband on top. This must be exactly the same. We then cut this out. Finally, we fold our fabric again and place the pattern piece for the back trouser leg. After tracing the outline again, we can cut it out. And now let's get our iron ready. Because to make sure the pants are a complete success, we are going to iron each item once. Make sure you follow all the ironing steps in this video. Believe me, it completely changes the end result of the garment. I used to skip a lot in the beginning, but that's not a good idea in the long run. And by the way, you could also wash the fabric first and then iron it, but that takes too long for me. The small factor by which the fabric shrinks only comes into play after the first wash. As soon as we have finished ironing everything, we mark the wrong side of all our pieces. Do this just to be on the safe side in case the left and right sides of the fabric are slightly similar. This will help you avoid unnecessary mistakes when sewing them together. Now we start with the back of the trousers. To do this, we lay our 2 back trouser legs in front of us and use the pattern piece again to mark the corners for the trouser pockets. Then take the 2 stays and secure them with clips. right sides facing. You can always pause the video and compare your view with mine to make sure the pieces are positioned correctly. We then sew this passage with a straight stitch. The presser foot simply glides edge to edge with the fabric and the needle position is in the middle. The stitch length is approximately 3. Next, we go back to the ironing board. Fold the seam allowance down and iron it from the right side, i.e. from the beautiful outer side of the fabric. Now we take our edge sewing foot, set the stitch length to 4 and sew a first top stitch seam. We make the second top stitch seam in parallel by simply moving the small metal part of the edging foot along our first seam. Remember, all top stitch seams in this project are made with stitch length 4. Now we can turn our attention to the back pockets. Let's lay them out in front of us and I will show you what we need to do with both using one of them. First, we fold the side edges inwards by approximately 1 cm. Then we fold the top edge in twice. Once by 1 cm and then by 2 cm. It may take some time to fold the bottom edge correctly, but you can manage the two. Now all folded edges must be ironed though roughly. The first top stitch seam can then be made on the upper edge, and according to the same principle as the second, except that we now have the normal presser foot to hand. Now place the pocket on the back trouser leg and pin it in place at the right edges and the bottom edge. The top is of course left open. Sew once all the way around with the edge sewing foot and then sew a second seam with the first seam as a guide. Both back trouser legs can now be secured in the crotch, right sides together, with clips. With a stitch length of 3 and the needle position in the middle, we then sew this section together. I now finish this piece with my overlock. If you don't have one, you can also check your instruction manual to see what kind of overlock stitch your normal sewing machine has and use it to finish the edges. But you don't have to do that, you can do it all without. Now it gets more challenging. We come to the front of the trousers. We will start with the pockets in a fairly relaxed manner. You can place all the parts in front of you in exactly the same way for orientation. The coin pocket is prepared first. We proceed in the same way as with the back trouser pockets. Fold over the edges, press and make a double top stitch seam on the upper edge. Then mark the 2 upper corners of the pocket on the pocket piece and pin the coin pocket in place. With a stitch length of 4, sew it on with the edge sewing foot, with a double top stitch seam. This allows us to attach the first pocket bag with the rounding to our trouser leg with clips, right sides facing. This curve is sewn with the normal presser foot and a stitch length of approximately 2.5. Needle position is in the center. When sewing curves, really try to sew with the curve in a flow. Always align the edge of the presser foot with the edge of the fabric. Next, turn the bag inside out. Because we use clips and by sliding back and forth between our fingers, we bring the fabric edges of the curve perfectly together and secure them. This curve is ironed. The curve is then top stitched with the edge sewing foot, once again twice. This allows the rear matching pocket bag to be placed right sides together on the folded over bag. We only fuse the short part on the top and a very short part on the outside. The upper section is sewn down completely, very close to the edge from the right side. The outer section is much shorter, about 2 cm. Now the back pocket bag can be properly secured with clips. The entire bag is sewn shut all the way around. Just make sure to start sewing directly at the points where the previously fixed sections end. Now we turn our attention to by far the most difficult part of a pair of trousers, the closure. We place our zipper cover in front of us, take our 14 cm long zipper and place it right sides together with the slider upside down on the fabric, so to speak. Secure the zipper with pins on the left. Now sew the zipper on for the first time with a normal presser foot, very close to the edge. When you get to the position of the slider, leave the needle in the fabric, raise the presser foot and carefully pull the slider in the desired direction. When it looks like this, we take our zipper foot. Sew the same distance, but this time very close to the zipper teeth. The zipper cover piece can now be placed right sides together on our left front trouser leg. In other words, on the trouser leg that does not have the small fabric overhang at the crotch. The zipper cover is sewn in place using the normal presser foot, a stitch length of 3 and the needle position in the middle. It is then folded inwards and the edge of the fabric is secured again with clips. Now make a top stitch seam with the edge sewing foot according to the length of the zipper cover. Be careful not to sew anything to the zipper in the process. Next, we paint the curve of the zipper cover. You can actually easily feel the silhouette of the zipper cover through the fabric on the right. The painted line is then sewn with the normal presser foot and stitch length 4. Feel free to use the hand wheel for the rounding. The second top stitch seam is made with the edge sewing foot, simply using the left edge of the presser foot to follow the first top stitch seam. Now we take our right trouser leg, which has the fabric overhang at the crotch, fold this overhang inwards and secure it with clips. This is then also ironed. Now let's take a look at our sewn on zipper cover. I make an incision in the zipper there. Then we turn everything right side out so that the ironed fabric overlap can be placed perfectly on the zipper side that is still exposed and pinned in place. This piece is then sewn in place using the zipper foot and a stitch length of 4. The fly shield can now be taken to hand. Folded right sides together. The bottom slanted edge is sewn together with a straight stitch. On the closed side, I make a diagonal cut in the excess seam allowance. This looks better for the corner as we are now turning the fly shield right side out. I close the open side using the overlock. And now watch out. Let's take a close look at the inside of our trouser fly. You should then see a really thin seam allowance on the zipper. This is where the fly shield is placed. Now use the zipper foot to sew the fly shield lengthwise to this narrow seam allowance. You have to concentrate quite well. For the perfect finish, we now make 2 markings on the outside of the zipper cover top stitch seams. At these 2 points we use a very short stitch length of 1.5 to secure the fly shield so that it does not swing back and forth on the inside. The last step is to close the crotch completely. To do this, of course, fix this short curve right sides together. Now, very important. You should be able to see a pleat. Do not start sewing on it under any circumstances. We only start sewing the rounding together directly behind it. It looks a bit tricky, but it's not. It's just unfamiliar and I've only ever done this with pants. From the top seams downwards, a piece of the crotch lies with a folded edge on the other side. That is correct. This is no longer the case from the point where we have sewn the rounding together after the pleat. There is therefore a smooth transition from a folded fabric passage to a normal one. We top stitch this transition close to the edge, right to the end. Pull the fabric slightly apart after the folded part. The normal seam allowance then folds inside in one direction and we can top stitch as normal. Now place our front trouser side in front of us and take our back trouser side. Using the top stitch seam we have just sewn, we now look in which direction we need to place the seam allowance of the crotch of the back trousers so that the top stitch seam of the back trousers that follows runs perfectly into that of the front trousers. Once you have this, you can make a nice top stitch seam for the back trousers. We can then place both trouser leg sides right sides together and clip the inner leg passage. This is then sewn together using the normal presser foot, a stitch length of 3 and the needle position in the middle. I also finished the whole thing with the overlock. Now the overlocked seam allowance is folded towards the back of the trousers and we make a nice top stitch for the inside leg seam. As always, use stitch length 4 and an edge stitch foot. Now we fix the outer sides with clips and close them with a straight stitch as before and finish the whole thing with the overlock. Now we take our belt loop strip. We overlock it lengthwise along the right and left edges. If you don't have an overlock, you don't have to do this. What's about to happen can also be done without overlocking the edges. Now fold in the same amount of fabric from the right and left sides to create a normal strip. Fasten these folded edges with a few clips. Next, we take our 2 waistband pieces. Place them right sides together. At the left and right ends, fold over a 1 cm wide strip at the bottom. This is how it looks for now. Now we can grab our iron. First, iron the belt loop strip, then the 1 cm wide strip is evenly ironed around the waistband along the entire curve. The belt loop strip is now top stitched. The needle position is on the right and we guide the presser foot along the edge of the fabric. Then simply turn the strip and do the whole thing again. For the waistband, start sewing at the folded strip with a stitch length of 3 and the needle position in the center. Leave the needle in the fabric approximately 3 stitches before the corner. Set the stitch length to 2 and make 2 stitches at a 45-degree angle. Then set the stitch length to 3 again and sew straight along the entire long passage of the waistband. When you reach the other side, repeat the same procedure. We now make 2 diagonal cuts at each corner. This makes the corner look nicer as soon as we turn the waistband. The fabric is now moved back and forth between the fingers all the way around so that the edges are perfectly aligned. This is because it is ironed neatly all the way around. We now make markings at 11 cm intervals on the belt loop strip so that we can cut off 7 belt loops. The trousers can now be turned right side out once. The waistband is now attached inside, right side out with the unpressed edge. starting at the fly shield and ending at the zipper cover. Using the normal presser foot, a stitch length of 3, and the needle position in the center, sew the waistband in place all the way around. We then take our belt loops and place them with one end right sides together at the desired point. These are then sewn in place with a short stitch length. The waistband can now be folded over around the fly shield and the zipper cover. The pressed edge can now always be aligned with the seam of the waistband that has just been sewn on and pinned in place. This allows you to top stitch the waistband all the way around. Make sure that you do not accidentally catch any of the waistband loops. Next, fold the free ends of the belt loops over by about 1.5 cm and secure them at the top edge of the waistband. The lower side of each belt loop is flattened with a short straight stitch when sewn in place. The upper side is sewn close to the edge in line with the top stitching on the waistband. Now we can finish the leg openings. For these jeans, I first fold over about 1 cm, then fold again about 3 cm. The strip is pinned all around and neatly pressed. Afterwards, the strip is stitched from the inside, edge to edge, using a regular presser foot, needle position to the left, and a stitch length of 4 all around. Now it's time for stone washing. Of course, we are not actually going to put stones in a washing machine. You can do that, and it's the easy way, but it could also get very expensive and you don't have the same artistic freedom as with the method I'm about to show you. We will be stone washing by hand instead. All you need is a pumice stone and a container of water. Start by soaking the pans in the water so they are completely wet. Then take them out and lay them flat on the floor. Dip the pumice stone in water and then start scrubbing away. Yes, it's time consuming and a bit physically demanding, but trust me, it's worth it. You can achieve all kinds of textures and patterns. Just keep scrubbing, especially over areas where creases form. They will look very cool in the end. And be prepared to scrub for quite a while. The goal is to see the pumice stone's grit on the fabric, so you will notice tiny particles left behind. You know you're on the right track when you start to see lighter spots appearing on the fabric. And don't worry if you don't scrub enough the first time, just repeat the process after the first wash. This will guarantee you an amazing result. Once you're done scrubbing, simply toss the pans in the washing machine. But before we get to see the final result, we just need to attach the button for the pants closure. For this, I use a metal button that you can hammer in place with a small metal pin. Determine the position by overlapping the waistband. You can, of course, use also a sew-on button if you prefer. Lastly, mark the buttonhole based on the diameter of the button. You can feel it through the fabric. Once the buttonhole is sewn, we just need to cut it open. I recommend using a seam ripper. Start by cutting from one side to the middle, and then from the other side. This way you will get a perfect result. And here's the finished, straight-cut baggy jeans. The fit is perfect, which makes them super comfortable to wear. And the best thing about garments that you have stone washed is that they look even cooler with each wash. Sewing jeans like this is definitely a bit more challenging, but all the effort is absolutely worth it.
If you liked the video, then I'm definitely happy about every thumbs up. Feel free to send me your finished sewing projects via Insta. It's always really cool to see what you guys create. Feel free to let me know in the comments how you liked the video, and if you got questions or suggestions, please let me know. See you at the next video. Until then, have fun sewing.